Hello, and you're very welcome to the Women's Rugby Pod. 91 episodes of this weekly podcast. We're here every single week throughout the season, season after season, to reflect on all the news from around the world of women's rugby. And this week is no different at all. It's been a huge week for women's rugby. Loads and loads of news to bring you up to date with, reaction, looking forward, previews as well. But let's just let you know what's going on this weekend in the world of women's rugby on the international stage. USA against Canada in Colorado. France against South Africa at the Stade de la Rabine in Vannes. Then on Sunday, it's that rematch between England and New Zealand at Franklin's Gardens. And Wales take on Japan at Cardiff Arms Park. We will reflect not only on that England victory, 43 points to 12, over New Zealand in the company of Rocky Clark, no less. Yes, the legendary Plot will give her views on that set piece, which is so crucial at the weekend, wasn't it, in that victory over New Zealand. On the flip side of that, we've also got Kendra Coxage on the pod for you, the legendary Blackburn player, to say what they've been doing this week to try and fix some fairly obvious things that they needed to put right ahead of the game on Sunday against Franklin's Gardens. But the major news yesterday, we just had to get some reaction from it, was from Wales. They've created contracts for their women's players. Well, enough of me rambling on about it. Let's get some reaction to that from the very, very top. And part of that decision process, Lisa Burgess is coming on the pod now, the WRU Vice President. Lisa Burgess, elected Vice Chair of the WRU. Thank you so much for joining us for what looks like a very sunny Worcester there.
Hey, Johnny, good to see you. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here. Blue sky. Yeah, gorgeous.
How's things with you?
Really good. Yeah, really good. I'm loving it here at Worcester Warriors. Yeah, really, really great working here and really enjoying it.
Great stuff. Yeah, got the Worcester Warriors hat on today, but we're just going to ask you to just change for the next 5 minutes or so, just to put the Welsh Red WRU hat on. And as I say, thank you so much for a late caller joining us on here. Huge news coming out of the WRU yesterday. For those who've been under a rugby rock over the last 24 hours, what's happened? What are the facts and figures?
Well, really exciting news as well. You know, it's absolutely amazing. The girls now have been kind of rewarded with 12-month contracts, 25 international players, and 10 of those will be professional contracts with 15 retainer contracts. So, plus match and training fees as well. So it's just really great. It's a huge step forward for Welsh women. The WRU are really showing full intent on supporting this as one of their strategic priorities moving forward in the women's game. And as we all know, it's not just about money. It's getting the whole package which is in place, including performance, lifestyle, psychology, medical, to support the girls moving forward. So this is just brilliant now, especially with the World Cup 12 months away. And there's real intent, like I said, from the board, from Nigel Walker, his recent appointment as performance director as well has just been phenomenal, and Steve Phillips as well. There's real intent, so it's great to see.
And obviously, you're on the board there at the WRU. That was obviously had to be ratified by you once the decision was made to do this, and that board is fully on board with the intentions of Nigel Walker and the rest.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the WRU have put their hands up about, past mistakes and everything. We've acknowledged that, everybody knows that. But now this is very much about moving forward, and this real intent. Like I said, it's one of the strategic priorities, to make Wales the best, performance side that they can be in the world, So there's real intent there, and that's being driven by Nigel Walker, like I said, and totally backed by the WRU board and Steve Phillips as CEO and Rob as chair. So it's really exciting times at the moment within the WRU and the Welsh women.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've spoken on this pod, and you had a big old review, and I suspect it wasn't the nicest of reading that review. But yeah, it's about reacting to these things, isn't it? And there isn't a rewind button, and people say, "Oh, it's not before time," and what have you. But the fact is, you put your money where your mouth is, and that's exactly what the WRU has done. what do you think this is going to do to that atmosphere? And possibly you've spoken to people within the camp, and there's huge amounts of social media going on. What's it going to do to those girls within the camp coming into some autumn games and then the Six Nations? What kind of lift does it give them?
Well, I think it's massive. I mean, there's been a lot of uncertainty over the last 2 years, like you said, that acknowledgement from the WRU that things weren't good enough. Things had to change. It just had to move forward. So, there's a lot, I've spoken obviously to a few of the girls in the camps, and, they're really in a good place. And this gives them that stability now for those girls, that have those professional contracts. It gives them that ability to train as full-time athletes, to rest, recover, get the support they need, and have that security as well about, not worrying about how they're going to fit things around their job, their work. And like we said, it's not just about the contracts. It never has been. But that makes a massive difference to these girls being able to train, sleep, recover, get the support they need, but also for the coaches to have access to the girls as well. So we're not talking just about weekend camps now, but they can, have access during the week as well to get those extra sessions in to maximise the potential of those players, which is just brilliant, and as it should be for the Welsh team moving forward.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? That time together. Just spoke to Kenna Coxage earlier on the pod, and that time together is huge. That intrinsic sort of links that you can take from off the field back onto the field. So someone like Jazz Joyce, would be in the front runner to get one of those contracts. Unbelievable lift for somebody like her. And is it going to be some crossover between the 7s and 15s?
Again, I'm not really sure. I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But yeah, someone like Jazzy, God, what an amazing year she's had. And, just recently, obviously on social media saying, I don't know what's going to happen, to now receive this news that they're going to get professional contracts. Yeah, it's just brilliant. And it gives that stability, like I said, and that security. So you can train fully and put your heart and soul into it. And like I said, for the coaches as well, it's just brilliant, and it's a massive, massive statement from the WRU, that intent to moving forward for the women's game.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing, but because I know there's huge amounts of ground roots stuff being done at the WRU, and you've got an unbelievable team, and a friend of mine, Shona Powell-Hughes, has been part of that, and the amount of work that they do, that's just going to give, we talked, you and I have spoken for many years about, if you can see it, you can be it. That's just going to give all those young girls that opportunity to do that now, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, underpinning all the performance, obviously part of that performance is, the player pathway and competition structure in Wales. And I know that's something that Nigel is looking at to get right. So we've got those pathways for those young girls to actually move up through the age grades and then actually perform at that top level on the performance side of things. And then, as you said, in the community side, not the performance side, you've got all those role models that are there. Sheepy, Shona Powell-Hughes, you mentioned, did a fantastic job. She's retraining now, as we know, to become a fire officer, which is just brilliant. She's an amazing role model and did a huge amount of work. But yeah, these people are on the ground, and they're going out there and hitting all these girls in the hubs and the schools. And I'm going down to Ystrad to watch the Dragons a week on Friday, under 14s, 16s and 18s, training, which is just brilliant. And this is all going on. So all this news is just adding to that. And hopefully that, like I say, the player pathway and competition structure will be getting placed, very soon, that they'll lead to that performance structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if I was one of the owners of Worcester, I'd be signing up for a long-term contract now, so getting it back to coach back in Wales. But anyway, but look, thank you so much. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for giving us reaction to what absolutely brilliant news. And yeah, it really is pushing other unions to do it as well. But the WRU has put their money where their mouth is and reacted superbly. And really appreciate you reacting to that with us today on the WRP.
Oh, 100%. And thanks, Johnny, and thanks for all the great work you do on the WRP as well.
I'm Kira Bevan, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Brilliant to have Lisa Burgess on the pod. She, fabulous lady. She's talking about Shona Powell-Hughes being a role model there. She's an unbelievable role model, a brilliant coach, and elected vice president on the WRU, and great to have someone so high up in that organisation come and chat about that quite incredible news. Well, just a reminder of the rest Of those fixtures, of course, we've spoken already about England taking on New Zealand on Sunday at Franklin's Gardens. The other international fixtures, just to remind you, this weekend are as follows. That second test between USA and Canada in Colorado on Saturday. France hosts South Africa. Perhaps give a bit of reaction to that next week. In Van, the Stade de la Rabine. And then on Sunday, joining England against New Zealand, is Wales taking on Japan at Cardiff Arms Park. What an unbelievable filler that news of those contracts will be. But let's get into that England against New Zealand game. Now, the set piece was hugely important. The scrum was massive for England. So no better person, possibly in the world of women's rugby, to have on the WRP now, but Rocky Clark. A very good morning to the rock star. That is Rochelle Rocky Clark. Morning, Rocky. How are we?
Good morning. I am very well. I'm topped up, ready to go. Done my training. We're all good. It's going to be a good day. Got coaching the Savo. Can't knock it.
Well, we're incredibly grateful for you to squeeze us into your incredibly busy schedule, media and coaching and PT and all the rest of it. That's all going well, that side of things for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Running my boot camps and doing my PTs, all going well. And then just found the new realms of CrossFit. So I'm one of those people now. So I'm loving it and throwing myself around a gym and doing lots of reps and stuff. So it's given me a new lease of life, actually. So the old girl's still going.
Yeah, I know you are. It's been a trademark of your career, finding little things to just keep inspiring you to move on and get better. So anyway, look, we could chat personally all day long, couldn't we? But look, the reason we got you on, obviously, England, New Zealand, huge game at the weekend. Some unbelievable viewing figures coming out of the BBC, sort of beating men's football at the weekend and what have you. It was a great occasion. Obviously, a heavy win for England, 43-12. But obviously the set piece dominated, and therefore no better person probably on the planet to get on than your good self. What did you make of the game and the spectacle?
Yeah, what a fantastic game. Like, England are another level at the moment. The set piece, England's always had a really strong set piece, but you know, this was such a dominant display by England, and you could tell by selection. Simon Middleton went for a heavy pack to compete with New Zealand, and just their dominance in the line out, the drive, like always. You got Lark on the back of these big dominant carries, and the maul, brilliant, and it's great to see the scrum functioning really well as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? You can try and outplay New Zealand sides, but actually stopping them at source. And I love that selection. A lot of eyebrows raised that Poppy Clear was, the player of the Six Nations at 8 with Sarah Hunter injured, but she went in the second row with Zoe Alcoff at 6, and so plenty of line-out options for England, and they literally just stopped New Zealand at source. Is that the way that you found that you do need to beat New Zealand?
Yeah, absolutely. When we went down to New Zealand in 2017, that was how we had to play against them. We scored off a couple of driven mauls, and you stop them at source, you grind it out of them, and then they really struggle with that. So that's definitely an area I imagine that they're really working hard on this week to be competitive with England, because I'm sure they want a much closer game than last game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is it too simple to say, Rocky, that we are really seeing the fruits of full professionalism now? Certainly, that's a large part of it. But is it a little bit more than that with this England side?
Yeah, I mean, we are lucky enough that for many years the line out and the scrum has been a real area of strength for England. But there's just another level just been added every year on, that England is just getting better and better. And when you can do your drills, you can smash through your lineouts every single week. When you've got the time to be in camp and you're being professional, and the analysis that's going on, the work, there's little skills to upskill us in our set piece is just but so beneficial being professional. And hopefully the likes of Wales and stuff will get better and better with that backing and that support and the time to be able to do that.
And as you well know, is that it's also that just that time together whether it's having a game of Monopoly Go or hiding the teddy, whatever game. I can't remember. That was that game, 2014, was it? Hiding people's teddies or something. But just had that time together that within these camps, and that England have that time to do. Whereas New Zealand, you haven't played for over 2 years, and most people probably would have expected an England win possibly with that knowledge. But actually, the margin of victory was quite so significant. That time together as people as well as rugby players is significant as well.
Oh, it's paramount. And, leading into the 2014 World Cup, we lived in each other's pockets for sort of 6 months leading up. And to have that camaraderie, wanting to play for each other, knowing each other inside out makes a huge difference to how far you're willing to push yourself and not give up. And as I said, the time on the pitch is so important that they can really rep out a number of drills that they're going through, line out drills. And so Lark and Amy Cockayne will know exactly who jumps where, how they jump, what their triggers are. And that is just so important. They're the small details, the 1%ers that make the difference. And you can see that is just paying dividends now, and getting to know the girls off the pitch as well, and having that team ethos is vital to the team doing well.
Absolutely. Lewis Deacon's obviously come in over the Six Nations. The scrum did struggle certainly against France. Sarah Bird was obviously back from injury. Maud Muir came off the bench. I try to get those first names and second names wrong. But Maud Muir came off the bench. Was impressive. Have you heard rumblings from Marley and Poppy Cleal about what Lewis Deacon is bringing to that England squad?
Yeah, they're saying he's bringing another level. Every coach they get brings their own specialism, and obviously he's phenomenal in his set piece, and you can see how much work has gone into that in previous years and how much they're doing now. So it's great that he's making such a difference in the scrum as well. And obviously Sarah Byrne, the little baby rhino, is back just doing her thing, and you got Bottomman back from injury, just and a big heavy back five. You're stating what you're going to do, aren't you? You're taking them on up front, and that's what we did.
Absolutely. And you taught them all everything you know. So it's all down to Rocky Clark, which is why you're on. Zoe Aldcroft had an exception game. Player of the match went to one of your fly halves, Zoe Harrison. Just a word on Zoe, and from my very humble opinion, just really maturing, really beginning to prop blossom there.
Yeah, it's great to see, and Zoe's been really lucky. She's obviously been at Sarries with such good ball carrying forwards that she has a lot of front football and has got like a beautiful boot, so she can play and get the ball out wide when she needs to, play in the right areas, and she's having that from the England forwards as well. So she's just able to blossom. She's a real threat on ball as well. So she's got every part of the game, a wise head on young shoulders, and that's what you want. And I think it's been great for her and Helena that obviously Katie's retired, and so they're getting their opportunities now and playing against the best in the world, and that they're showing how good they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Let's move on to look ahead to this Sunday up at Frackless Gardens. What do England need to polish, if anything?
Just I'd make sure it's obviously much of the same. Stick to their game plan, and we know that New Zealand struggled to deal with the speed of the ball. That England are just getting around the corner, punching up, getting New Zealand on the back foot. That's the kind of stuff we need to be focusing on ourselves. Obviously, there was a few times in defence that we need to work on getting connected, and I would be looking at that on our defensive shape, to work in our threes, getting our line speed, getting those double tackles in. But the girls have put in a really good shift, and they need to carry on the momentum, and much the same with a set piece as well. Just keep going and let them unleash the backs when it's appropriate. Yeah,
for me it was that execution, and it was first game for a while, and that there is going to be a little bit of rust, and if we're being really analytical about it. You've probably left 30, 35 points out there in terms of tries and opportunities out wide, and that crispness of catch pass wasn't quite there at times on the outside, but geez, you're going to take 43-12 on you all day long. Rocky, how significant is it to back this up next week? Because don't know the plans pre-World Cup, but obviously going down there for a World Cup next year down in their backyard, how significant would this psychological edge be if England put another performance in like that, or certainly just a back-to-back win?
Yeah, this is a really interesting debate because we've obviously played New Zealand twice before World Cup finals and beat them in the autumns, and then we've gone and lost in the finals against them in the World Cup. So there's a bit of that history maybe just lingering, but I think if we can get another really dominant display against them, that's going to put a seed of doubt in the New Zealand minds, and it's going to give England a huge amount of confidence. Obviously, you're going to New Zealand's backyard to go and play in the World Cup. They're not going to give it up easily. So England need that confidence that they can beat them, but they're going to have to put the graft in for the next year and keep upping their game and absolutely make sure everything's finely polished for the Six Nations and any other games they've got. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, look, while you're here, I just wanted to get your take on a couple of the home unions and plenty of players in squads that have been announced in the last week. And just get your unbelievably experienced take on it, Madame Centurion. Scotland have announced their squad for that test against Japan. Rachel Malcolm will be back captaining, and Brian Easton will be looking to obviously build on that brilliant campaign for the European World Cup qualifiers, where they're still obviously in that fight to get a World Cup spot. What did you make of their squad?
Yeah, it's an exciting squad. There's obviously some youngsters and oldies in alike, and it's great to see. Obviously, Jade Concoy is a massive talisman for the team back in, and her ability to get front foot ball in the hardest of situations against a big defensive effort. She will always get you over the gain line. And I'm really excited to see Lindsay O'Donnell back in the squad after being out for, I think 2017 was her last cap. So it's great to see how well she's been doing in the Allianz 15s and seeing her back in, and she's just a work rate, effort, and ball carrying. She's a really good air guy. I used to play over at Worcester and see all the she's an unsung hero how much work she does. And I think you mentioned earlier maybe 4 debutants, as well as sort of the likes of Helen Nelson, who's a stalwart of the team now and going strong and just playing better and better every game. It's exciting to see. I'm looking forward to the game.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That trajectory of Scottish women's rugby is definitely on the up, isn't it? And there's some real quality, certainly a real quality 15, and now in that certainly a back row, back 5 of the pack. There's some selection issues for Brian Easton, which Scotland have always had the privilege of being able to say that. Ireland announced their squad as well, 33 players, including 6 uncapped players, rewarding lots of young players for performances in the interprovincials. Of course, Munster won that, and the All Ireland League as well. But just intertwined between some real experience in that Ireland squad as well. Obviously, looking to bounce back for not being able to qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, they've been struggling over the last few years, and I think it's great to see that they've got some real experience. I like, Lindsay Peat is a stalwart of the game, and somebody I hugely respect, and Sene Napo as well. She's a phenomenal for Ireland week in, week out. So it's great to have the sort of cornerstones of those experience then spattered with the new sort of youngsters coming through, and we've got to see the youngsters coming through now. If it's not working, we need to develop and regroup and keep moving forward. And these young players coming through have had the opportunity and been competing well every week. So it's great to see them come in and see what they can do. It's going to be a tough ask, but I think these girls have got to gel quickly and then move forward.
Yeah, Adam Gregg's last campaign. Obviously, Greg McWilliams taking over this. I wonder how many conversations those two have had. But yeah, if you're playing well for in your club or provincial shirt, you've got to be rewarded for it. Otherwise, it kind of makes it nonsensical. But both Scotland and Ireland doing that, so it's great to see. Rocky, thank you so much for all your thoughts on England, New Zealand, and the Ireland and Scotland squads. There, really, really appreciate your time. Keep doing what you're doing. I see a little Barbarians top there. Who knows? Well, see you later in the year. Who knows? Let's hope so. And fingers crossed for all those rugby fans.
You are most welcome. Anytime, lovely.
Let's get the New Zealand take now. Let's get Kendra Coxidge on the WRP. Kendra Coxidge, thank you so much for joining us on the Women's Rugby Pod on this Thursday afternoon. How are you? How's England treating you and the rest of the squad?
Yeah, it's not too bad here. It's been a little bit chilly. It was all right in Exeter, but we've moved on to Northampton, so it's a little bit colder here for some reason. I don't know if that's because it's November now and it's getting into winter here. But now we're enjoying it. The girls we're obviously in bubble life, so we're just trying to manage it at the moment of having some time together as well as getting out and about where we can under our restrictions that we've got.
Plenty of singing, plenty of dancing going on, is there, within the camp?
Yeah, there's always a lot of singing and dancing going on in this team. That's why I've lost my voice. I was trying to lead the dance yesterday, and this is what happens when you don't do that kind of stuff before. So usually TK leads it, and the girls kind of forgot about it, so I started leading it, and now I've lost my voice.
Brilliant. Thought I might be barking at your forwards, but look, we'll get into the game stuff in just a sec. Has there been a need for more singing this week, or possibly tone down the singing and get things on the park a little bit more sort of focused?
The singing never stops in this team. Straight after, obviously, we're pretty disappointed about the loss on the weekend, and it was a challenging game. And credit to England. They played well out there, and so we're pretty gutted in our 100th test to lose like that. But we had to keep the spirits high and get around each other. So as soon as we got back after the game, we got together and connected, and we've had a really good week this week. With trainings have been really, really awesome. The girls are really lifted it up another level, and so we'll see how things look on Sunday. Yeah,
absolutely. Can you just talk us about how they came? It's a 100th test there for New Zealand as a country. Obviously, Sandy Park, it's a decent place to play rugby. Bit of wind down there, but a good old crowd as well. What was the occasion like? The sun was shining, two best teams outside of France going head to head. How was the occasion for everyone and yourself?
Yeah, it was a pretty special occasion. 100 tests for the Black Ferns, it was always going to be exciting build up. And, for myself, that was my 53rd test. So to play over half of those was pretty cool. But I guess the main thing was us getting some more test footy in. Sandy Park was awesome. The crowd was pretty unreal. I think there was just about 10,000 people there. So for us, that's massive. There's some girls on this side that have never played in front of such a big crowd before. So, it was a bit different for them to experience that as well. But no, the crowd was absolutely fantastic. I remember at one stage when England scored one of their tries, it just roared. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually quite loud in here. And it was great pitch as well. And as you said, it was a bit windy as well.
Yeah, it is. The wind whips off the motorway there, isn't it? Down the M5 there. Let's get into the game itself. We'll look forward, obviously, just a sec. But your assessment of the game. Look, I think those in the know would realise that it's 2 years plus since you've played together. That has to have a massive bearing. England fully professional. You guys aren't. But just give us your assessment of the game, sort of tactically and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, we're obviously disappointed in our performance as a side, and for it to be our 100th test and to play like that, we were pretty gutted. I remember coming off the game pretty upset about it, but as again, we get another crack at it this weekend. But I think for us, it was, England really came out, the physicality of it. We haven't probably played that physical game for a while. We have our Wharapama Cup at home and obviously club footy and all that, but nothing matches the physicality of test footy and the speed of it, the pace of it as well. And, England have got some speed out there, and credit to them, they used that well. They obviously used their wind well. Their kicking game, I thought, was really really well planned, and they did a good job of that as well. But for us, our girls, we just didn't match it. But it was a welcome back to Test footy. That's what we all talked about. Like, it was, you kind of forget how tough it is out there on the lungs. But as I've just said, we've cracked into it this week. We've trained very well, and we're looking forward to getting back out there on Sunday.
What's been top of the list in terms of, right, we've got to get this right? I mean, probably line out isn't going to be too far away from the lips of your answer.
Yeah, so we've got to probably really focus on our set piece. Obviously everyone would be able to see that. There's no secret there. It was pretty challenging in there for us, and we're not getting a good platform. It makes it really difficult for the rest of the game to flow. So it's been a big focus on that this week. Big focus on mindset, and then just focusing back into Test footy. So we started to put some things together this week, and that mindset's already changed, and everyone's up for it.
Where do you think you can damage England, having already played them once? Quite rare to go back to back and get that opportunity. Where do you think you can hurt England? Obviously not giving away too many.
Yeah, I'm not going to give not going to give away too many secrets. But for us, it's probably more just focusing on our game, to be honest, Johnny. I know that kind of sounds cliche, but we need to work on what our strengths are, and that's always actually been a line out for us, as actually being one of our strengths. So we've really worked on that this week, and I know the girls will be firing in that area. But for us as well, we probably need to work better on our kicking game, being a bit more tactical in that, and just kind of turning them around. They did well at slowing our ball down. We didn't do so well at slowing their ball down. They played a fast-paced game, which blitzed our backs defensively. So, we've had a decent look at all that stuff, and I guess the main thing for us after playing that, Test footy again, it was, we kind of weren't sure how things were going to go. With obviously England have played a few more tests this year, but they've had a few changes too. So, you can video analyse a lot out of teams, but at the end of the day, once you actually play a game, you can kind of see a little bit more, which has been really good.
Yeah, absolutely. What's minimum standard then for Sunday? Is it purely about performance? Is it purely about getting a victory, or a little mixture of both?
I think it's a mixture of both. We've got a World Cup next year, which is massive for us, and that's a huge focus at home too. So for us, it's about playing quality rugby, putting in a better performance than what we did last Sunday, and then obviously we've had a lot of new girls as well that have experienced Test footy that will get another crack at it this weekend. So being able to give them some experience at this top level has been really good too.
Looking at the tour, it's at a wider perspective. You speak about the youngsters there. You mentioned a couple of times. Is the tour, obviously you want to win every game? It's a Blackfern shirt. You're very good at doing it. But how much of the tour is about that development, and Glenmore and the rest of the coaching team bringing on young players, as you say, ahead of that World Cup?
Yeah, I think it's hugely important, and it's also important for us old ones to get some Test footy in again. So we always knew it was going to kind of be a bit like that. But we got some young girls coming through, and it's so awesome. They're a great bunch of girls. They're willing to learn, and it's just, I was pretty gutted as an older person in the team that we kind of lost the way we did in the weekend. That's something that around the black jersey we held huge pride in, and so it's pretty tough for me for some of these girls on debut to experience a loss like that. But as I said, the spirits are high now. We flushed that straight the next day. We did a pretty brutal and honest review, which was super important. And some girls, again, those young ones may not have experienced that before, but it's been really good. And the main thing is as long as you get learnings out of it. But I think too, the more Test footy that these young girls can play is only going to make them better, come World Cup next year, especially over the next 12 months.
How much, Kendra, is in the psychology of playing England? The two teams have met each other in pretty much every World Cup final. I asked Rocky Clark, who's been on the pod today as well, about the psychology of always beating someone, and then the question marks potentially come into the next game when you're possibly under pressure. The retort back from some of the England girls, well, we played New Zealand ahead of 2017, beat them down there, and then go ahead and lose the final. So how much of the psychological battle do you need to win this weekend in a World Cup year?
Well, there's a lot, there's a lot, obviously, rugby's, there's a big mindset behind that and how you approach games. But, I think for us, it was probably something that we didn't quite do so well last week. And I know that the mindset's kind of changed again into this week. But, it's test footy, right? You don't know what's going to happen. As you said, the black jersey, we want to go out and we want to win. And I want to win. I'm a very competitive person. And, so our focus is on this tour at the moment, knowing that these girls getting developed for next year. But at the same time, we're competitive. You want to win, and at the end of the day, it could be different to what it looks like next year. As you said, England upset us in 2017, but we come back and we won that World Cup. So you just never know. 12 months as well from now, we World Cup, and so much can change there. There's a lot of rugby to be played in the next 12 months too. So that's going to be a really exciting World Cup on home turf.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to, before we let you go and have a proper rest day, that voice obviously needs a rest as well ahead of the weekend. We don't want to
park at the forwards again.
yeah, exactly. You've certainly been needing to do that, so we don't want to be responsible for you not being able to do that. But just obviously yesterday, some amazing news out of Wales. Not before time, all those kind of comments flying around and what have you. It's beginning to properly flow, isn't it? Those sort of essential contracts for women's rugby.
Yeah, we played Wales the other week in a bit of a warm-up match, and they had travelled, they bust down to play us, and they all had to go back to work on that Monday. So, it's pretty amazing. I think it's really cool to see that these contracts are coming out, and, moving forward, rugby's moving forward, and people have to allow players to become full-time players now. Those, you're going to get left behind. So I think it's really cool that they've done that. And it's a really exciting time for them and for women's rugby.
And it pushes pressure potentially on other unions, and I suspect, fingers crossed. And I know you're giving me a media straight bad answer, but obviously you're hoping that New Zealand probably won't be too far away.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure New Zealand will be pretty close too. Obviously, having a World Cup at home next year as well. So hopefully, going forward, we're in that same position, and we've been lucky enough to be paid over the last couple of years. Where and now it's just going to continue to move forward, and fingers crossed over the next couple of years that it happens.
Yeah, absolutely, great stuff, Kendra. Thank you so much for your time. Go rest your voice, rest the body, and we'll massively look forward to Sunday's clash. And as I said to Stacey last week, all the very best, but not all the very best, if you know what I mean.
Thanks, Johnny.
I'm Dave Conkle, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Great to have Kendra Coxidge on the pod. Yeah, the voice was croaky, wasn't it? But great to hear that they've lifted themselves back up after that defeat to England. And we know full well, don't we? Any New Zealand side will be very, very keen to put the wrongs right this week. And I suspect we will see a very different New Zealand side coming into Sunday's game. We're now to catch up with all the rest of the news internationally. Here's Nandy's News.
Thank you so much, Johnny. It's great to be back again this week. I'm very excited to be delivering your international news right here on the Women's Rugby Pod. I'm, of course, Nandi Buthelezi, coming from all the way in South Africa. And we do start in the USA versus Canada game. The first of the Pacific 4 series kicked off on Monday at Infinity Park in the US. And it was, of course, the visitors, Canada, who came away with the win, winning 15-9 against the USA side. So congratulations to them. Even more international rugby, the second leg of the European Trophy took place on Saturday. Sweden beating Czech Republic 31-12, and Sweden now lead the table with 2 wins from 2 on 9 points. This weekend sees Czech Republic take on Finland, and matches will be available to watch and stream live on the Rugby EU website, so do look out for that. Over in Africa, in Kenya, the Safari Sevens tournament played this weekend at Nyayo Stadium, and 5 teams competed. This includes the Titans Women's Academy, Kenya Lionesses 1, Kenya Lionesses 2, Uganda Lady Cranes, and Zimbabwe Women. 2 days of intense competition on the field resulted in a final between the Kenya Lionesses and the Uganda Lady Cranes. The Kenyan side retained their title, winning 26-0. Congratulations to the ladies. Harlequins have released a statement announcing that Simon Barnes has departed from his role as forwards coach by mutual consent. The club will make no further comment at this time. And over in the English Championship, it was round 5 this weekend, and in the Northwest Park, Leeds bag a win, winning 26-12 against Barnsley, while Furwood Waterloo win 10-0 against Novo Castrians. Harrogate get a massive win, winning 45-0 against Safdon at home, while Lichfield draw 10-all against Cheltenham. Loughborough Town bag a massive victory, winning 40-0 against Kenilworth. West Park leads edge ahead to the top of the table with 5 wins from 5 on 25 points, while Cheltenham right close behind them on 22 points. Over in the south, Bath win 22-10 against Reading Abbey, while Blackheath lose at home against Richmond, losing 28-24. Thurrock bag a victory, winning 48-26 against Henley, and Hove get their first win, winning 29-10 against Buckingham Swans. Supermarines versus Old Albanians was postponed last minute due to unplayable pitches. Thurrock continued to top the log with 24 points, whilst Hove record their first win of the season. Wow, congratulations. No championship rugby next weekend, but round 6 does resume on the 13th of November. Over in Scotland, only one match took place this weekend. Watsonians beat Corstorphine 17-8, while the Heriot Blues versus Hillhead Jordan and the Cartha Queen's Park versus Stirling County games were both postponed due to waterlogged pitches. No Tenants Premiership next weekend. Corstorphine and Watsonians moved to first and second place on the table with 23 and 22 points respectively, but Hillhead Jordan are very close behind with 21 points and a game in hand. Moving over to Ireland, in round 5 of the Energia All Ireland Cup, Melancholic and Railway Union both failing to put any points on the scoreboard, drawing 0-0 in that encounter. Blackrock College get a massive win against Malone, winning 52-7, while Cook lose at home, losing 47-7 against Galwegians. Dutonians also losing at home, losing 22-17 against Old Belvedere. UI Bohemian and Wicklow also draw 0-0 in that clash. Blackrock College and Old Belvedere moved to the top of the table, both on 20 points, with Blackrock College leading on points difference. Railway Union dropped to 3rd place on 19 points, and next week we'll see Galwegians take on Blackrock College, Malone will host UI Bohemian, Old Belvedere will take on Cook, Railway Union RFC will take on Stutonians, and Wicklow will host Melancholic. And over in Spain, round 5 of the Iberdrola League took place this weekend, with St. Cuga bagging a massive 50-0 win against San Crum at home, while Grat Residencia lose 33-7 against Majadonda. Olímpico Topazelo and Cotiva Cocos draw 14-all, and Complutense Cisneros and Eibar also draw 17-all. This means that Complutense Cisneros lead the top of the table on 15 points, and Eibar very close behind with 12 points. Seems everyone is on break next week, including the Iberdrola League, which will see it resume for round 6 on the 13th of November. Black Ferns captain Sarah Harini has committed to the Hurricanes women's squad for the upcoming 2022 Super Rugby Opiki competition. She's the first announced signing for the Hurricanes, and what a signing that is. And staying with the world champions, the Black Ferns have their first A to Z of players, recording every capped Black Fern since the first match in 1989. Adam Julian came up with the project in May 2019 and pursued it through lockdown, tracking down and interviewing players who are the foundation and legacy of the Black Ferns. The encyclopedia is available on the All Blacks website. The RFU have announced the official opening of the Advanced Brain Health Clinic. This will be a specialist pathway for retired elite male and female rugby players between the ages of 30 and 55 who may have concerns over their individual brain health. It is located at the Institute of Sport, Exercise and Health in central London and is operated by independent experts Professor David Sharp and Dr. Richard Sylvester in partnership with the RFU and Premiership Rugby. Similarly, World Rugby has announced the establishment of a dedicated women's player welfare steering group that will exclusively focus on the advancement of player welfare initiatives and interventions designed specifically for the women's game at all levels. Chaired by former Canada international Dr. Ariba Chinta, the 13-person steering group will comprise of a diverse group of independent and World Rugby expert medical and legal professionals, science and research experts, former international players and administrators from across the global game, including our very own Rachel Bufford. The initiative plays a part in its ambitious 6-point action plan released earlier this year that seeks to make rugby the most progressive sport on player welfare. As another part of implementing this player welfare initiative, the Black Ferns and the Red Roses will participate in a groundbreaking head impact study using instrumented mouthguards to inform and advance injury prevention initiatives in women's rugby. If you could spot it during the game, players will wear Prevent Biometrics mouthguards during the matches on the 31st of October and the 7th of November, and during training sessions to monitor and record collisions between players and between players and the ground. Talk about some groundbreaking stuff. Well, that's it from me, Johnny. I will catch you next week.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Peat and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod. Enjoy.
Jill Burns, MBE. Always. Any excuse to get you on the pod and have a chat. Always love your company. Always have done. But we simply had to get you on with this cup news. But before that, far more importantly, how are you? How's things? How's mum?
Lovely to see you, Johnny. I'll say all's well. However, I've just tested positive for COVID, so I'm absolutely gutted that I'll have to miss this weekend's rugby. I was lucky enough to be able to go to the Tonga game and, of course, the Black Ferns second test. So gutted I can't see them. But you know what? Life could be worse. So I'm not going to look negatively at it. It's just 10 days of rest. I'll look at it positively.
Yeah, absolutely. 10 days of rest. And it was potentially you were on this on the Right Honourable Jeff Blackett's walk, weren't you, with his wife?
I was, yeah. Lancashire, my capacity as Lancashire president, I was hosting Jeff and his wife Sally for their Lancashire leg of the 150-mile celebration walk. We had a lovely day, 4 seasons in one day weather-wise. But sadly, Jeff and Sally had picked something up in Yorkshire the night before and brought it over to the good side of the Pennine. Sadly, shared it with me and maybe. But I'm gutted for Jeff and Sally because they're doing such a great job raising money for the IPF, and you know I'm sad for them that their sort of adventure had to stop before the end. But I'm sure they'll catch up the extra miles when they're fit and well, and wish them all the best for a speedy recovery. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Generous as ever, Jeff. Sharing all the bits and pieces. Yeah, North Yorkshire. Typical Yorkshire, isn't it? That isn't it, Jill? Look, this cup, the 1994 World Cup has been found.
It has. Absolutely delighted. Yeah. Just out of the blue, really. I've recently been privileged to be accepted as part of the World Rugby Museum in Twickenham of their subcommittee. So I'd been to my first face-to-face meeting in Twickenham. Just been delighted to be involved in that because obviously I've got a lot of stuff from the history of the women's game because I kept everything.
Of course you did. Yeah.
We'd been in a meeting that week and I'd said maybe we need to launch this properly, and I was hoping that maybe the RFU might get behind it and see if we could find the trophy. And it was the following day I just got a messenger message from one of the girls who used to be an administrator, the old WRFU days and RFUW days. And she said, found a couple of boxes in my parents' loft. We were clearing the loft and there's some old notes from meetings, minutes from meetings, handbooks and the World Cup in the other box. So I was like, the real World Cup? And she said, yes. And she'd found it in a loft. You know, I can imagine exactly how it's happened. You know, busy day. Administrators then were volunteers and perhaps, you know, come back with a boot full of kit, rugby balls, dirty kids, you know, literally probably taking people all around the country, go to a road show, bring everything back, and then helpful parents put things away for you. So I can see quite easily how the boxes have been put somewhere safe and been kept very, very safe, and just nobody remembered where they were. But I'm delighted they've since been found, and it was lovely to take both the trophy and all the old documents down to Phil McGowan at the museum. So all that treasured history is now in the place where it should be.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I was going to say where it's ended up. But we spoke about this and, we tried to raise some awareness through our little podcast here about it. You said it will be in somebody's loft. It'll be at the back of somebody's garage.
Yeah.
There you are, Jill Burns, crystal ball works again. But yeah, Phil does some amazing stuff down at the museum there. So it's all polished up now and its rightful place.
It's not polished up just yet because it's in a beautiful handmade box, beautiful wood handmade box, but the key's missing. So I think Phil McGowan try and find somebody who can pick the lock because the box is lovely. it's great to keep it in a display box. But once they've picked their way into that, I'm sure it'll be polished up beautifully.
But has it been like a sort of a child at Christmas? Has somebody shaken it to make sure that there is a cup in there? Because it would be terrible if you open this lovely box and there's nothing in there.
Don't worry, Johnny. There's a lovely glass front, so you can see it. Yeah. So it's definitely in there. And what was a lovely touch, I can't remember which of the current Red Roses squad, when we took it to show them the night I picked it up, one of the girls suggested that maybe the trophy could be played for every time England play against America, because of course that trophy was only ever, the final was only ever between England and America for the two World Cups when it was used. So I think that's a lovely idea. I think we should keep the fact that it's the World Cup and it should be called the World Cup, the original World Cup. But it would be lovely if it was the trophy that was played for every time we have a test with that nation. Perhaps it's something to think about, and keep it in the museum, but let's bring it out every time we have a fixture, and let's make sure we keep it in England.
Yeah, indeed so. Indeed so. I'm so pleased, because I know that kind of thing would, with all the bits and pieces that you've kept over the years, the unbelievable photo library and documents and programs and all the rest of it, you are the go-to person in terms of women's rugby history. I know that would have been just gnawing away at the back of your mind, but I'm so pleased for you and all the rest of that squad to finally have found it, and yeah, you can take your family and friends and actually go and see it in the museum, and that's what we lifted. It's it must be really nice.
It's a great feeling, yeah, and I'll never forget the pouring the champagne into the World Cup to drink and lifting it up to the mouth, and it had silver lace around the top, so all the champagne fell all over, but we didn't care.
No, absolutely.
Not a great cup to celebrate with in that way, but no, happy memories.
I'm sure you found other ways to celebrate, Jill, that night. Well, as we said, difficult at the time to get hold of, and it's been even more difficult to get hold of this time. But I'm absolutely delighted for you and the rest of the 94 squad that it is now in its rightful place, and I hope Phil gets Master Locksmith. And thank you so much for joining us today, and keep well and keep safe.
And you keep up the great work.
Brilliant to have Jill on the pod, and looking so pleased about finding that cup. It would have really been annoying her. She's got all that memorabilia for all those years of playing, no doubt, carefully marked. She knows exactly where all her memorabilia and nostalgia pieces are around her house, no doubt. But yeah, to have it back at the stadium, back in the museum at Twickenham is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, delighted for her and the rest of the squad. But also, it's another piece of the puzzle of the history of English women's rugby, isn't it? And to take it down to the current squad, as Jill was saying, and for them to connect with that and appreciate where rugby has come, what the sacrifices it has made, what the sacrifices those players have made. Yeah, I can only be a positive thing to link those eras together. But that's about it for another bumper edition of the Women's Rugby Pod. The only other shout out this week is for a couple of inductees to the World Rugby Hall of Fame. It's a huge congratulations to Juliana Manuel Carpenter, as she is now. You remember Juliana was outstanding performer in 2010 World Cup. The Black Fern, absolutely brilliant in that competition. Huge congratulations as well to Cheryl McAfee. Continued brilliant work. Two inductees to the Hall of Fame. Hugely deserved. Well, as the weather is beginning to turn here in England, perhaps even around the world, or around the Northern Hemisphere, we've got loads to keep you warm in our shop. Why don't you give it a little check out? www.hallbro, halbro.com/WRP, www.hallbro.com/WRP. We've got beanies in there. We've got hoodies, we've got jackets, mid-layers, gilets, you name it. Men and women's fit, of course. So yeah, why don't you check it out? Be great to see some stash. Send us your photographs of wearing some WRP stash around the place. That would be absolutely brilliant. And as ever, we're across social media. We know how many of you listen to us each week. Don't have those kind of followers or likes or follows on the social media. So if you don't already, then please do that, it just means that we can move things our end to spread the gospel even further. And also commercially as well, of course, it makes a massive difference. And then we can do even more with this Women's Rugby Pod, which is listened to around the world. And thank you so much for all your support, our dedicated listeners out there. Huge thank you, of course, to the team behind, to Sean, to Bluebell, to Tom, Nandi as well, of course, with all her news. And a big thank you to not one but two MBEs on the pod today, to Rocky Clark, to Jill Burns, to Kendra Coxidge, and a vice chair of the union as well, to Lisa Burgess. Thank you so much for coming on the pod today. It's been great to get your thoughts on all this amazing news coming out of women's rugby at the moment. We'll be back next week, of course. We're here every single week throughout the season. Until then, enjoy the test matches over the weekend and do stay safe.